Your brain is naturally wired to seek comfort and avoid discomfort. Evolutionarily, this made sense. Conserving energy and avoiding danger helped our ancestors survive. This wiring, however, often works against us when it comes to doing challenging tasks that require sustained effort. External rewards like money, praise, or recognition can temporarily motivate you to act, but they do not fundamentally change the way your brain perceives effort. These external incentives are like sugar. They give you a brief burst of energy or excitement, but once they are gone, the drive dissipates. If you rely solely on external motivators to do hard work, you'll find that your motivation is inconsistent and fragile, often disappearing as soon as the reward is delayed or uncertain. The key to forcing your brain to crave doing difficult things is to tap into intrinsic motivation, which arises from within and creates sustainable, long-term drive. Intrinsic motivation comes from activities that are meaningful, engaging, and aligned with your sense of purpose or identity. Unlike external rewards, which exist outside of you, intrinsic motivators create a sense of personal fulfillment and satisfaction that strengthens over time. When your brain experiences the satisfaction of making progress on something that matters deeply to you, it begins to associate effort with reward. This rewiring allows even the most challenging tasks to feel desirable because the reward is built into the action itself. Moreover, external rewards often activate the brain's dopamine system in a way that can lead to short-term spikes of pleasure but not lasting engagement. Intrinsic motivation, on the other hand, leverages a deeper system that responds to curiosity, mastery, autonomy, and purpose. When you are intrinsically motivated, you don't just tolerate difficult work, you actively seek it out because the process itself is rewarding. This creates a positive feedback loop. Effort leads to progress, progress leads to satisfaction, and satisfaction strengthens your desire to continue working hard. Over time, the brain begins to rewire itself, viewing effort as something that produces positive internal states rather than something to be avoided. In practical terms, focusing on intrinsic motivators requires shifting your attention from what you will get at the end of a task to how the task itself aligns with your growth, learning, or personal values. Instead of asking, "What reward will I get if I do this?" you ask, "How will doing this make me better, smarter, or stronger?" This subtle but powerful shift in perspective changes the brain's response to effort, transforming resistance into engagement and struggle into curiosity. By understanding that external rewards are temporary and limited, you can prioritize cultivating intrinsic motivation as the foundation for your work ethic, enabling you to crave challenges and embrace hard tasks with a sense of purpose and fulfillment. There are certain internal drivers that, when activated, give the brain a natural craving for hard work and challenge, and these are far more powerful than any external reward. One of the most important of these is curiosity, which is the innate desire to learn, explore, and understand the world around you. Curiosity is the engine that keeps the mind engaged with difficult tasks, because it turns the unknown into something intriguing rather than threatening. When you approach a hard task with curiosity, your brain perceives it as an opportunity for discovery rather than a burden. You become mentally absorbed in the process, seeking patterns, solutions, and insights, which naturally drive sustained effort. Another key internal motivator is purpose. Purpose is the sense that what you are doing matters to something bigger than yourself. When a challenging task is aligned with your deeper goals or values, the effort required to complete it becomes meaningful. The brain responds positively to tasks tied to purpose because it frames them as investments in your identity or in something you care about, creating a strong sense of motivation that external incentives cannot replicate. Mastery is another central internal driver, representing the desire to improve and develop skill over time. Humans are hardwired to seek competence, and when we perceive progress in our abilities, the brain rewards us with satisfaction and a sense of achievement. Difficult tasks naturally provide opportunities for mastery because they push our limits and challenge us to grow. Each small improvement reinforces the desire to keep going, making the effort itself intrinsically rewarding. Autotelicity is a concept that describes the enjoyment of an activity for its own sake, without reliance on external rewards. When a task has autotelic qualities, the brain experiences pleasure simply through the act of doing it. This can be seen in creative work, problem solving, or deeply engaging projects where time seems to disappear and the activity itself becomes the reward. Finally, autonomy is a crucial internal motivator. Autonomy represents control over your actions and decisions. When you feel that you are choosing your work freely and can make decisions about how to approach challenges, the brain interprets the effort as self-directed rather than imposed. This freedom increases engagement and reduces resistance because the task is aligned with your personal preferences and strategies. These 5 internal motivators, curiosity, purpose, mastery, autotelicity, and autonomy, do not function in isolation. When combined, they create a powerful feedback loop in which effort leads to growth, satisfaction, and engagement, which in turn reinforces the desire to take on more challenging tasks. Activating these drivers rewires the brain to seek difficulty rather than avoid it, transforming tasks that once felt overwhelming into opportunities for progress and fulfillment. By consciously focusing on these intrinsic motivators, you shift the source of motivation from temporary external rewards to sustainable, internal drivers that make doing hard things enjoyable and self-reinforcing over the long term. When intrinsic motivators are activated, they do more than just make hard tasks feel more appealing. They create a self-reinforcing cycle that profoundly changes how your brain approaches effort. This positive cycle begins with engagement. When you are intrinsically motivated, you naturally focus your attention on the task at hand, immersing yourself fully in the work without external pressure. The brain experiences this immersion as rewarding because it stimulates neural circuits associated with satisfaction, learning, and mastery. As you engage deeply, you often enter what psychologists call a flow state, a mental condition in which time seems to distort. Distractions fade away, and your performance reaches its peak. Flow is not just a pleasant state. It is the brain's way of reinforcing behaviors that are aligned with internal motivation. When you experience flow, your brain releases dopamine and other neurochemicals that create a sense of pleasure, focus, and satisfaction. This release not only makes the current work feel enjoyable, but it also strengthens neural pathways associated with concentration and perseverance, making it easier to re-enter flow in the future. The more you experience flow during challenging tasks, the more your brain begins to crave this state, linking effort directly with intrinsic reward. This is why people who consistently pursue challenging work often report feeling energized by their effort rather than drained. Another important aspect of this positive cycle is that it builds resilience to discomfort. Difficult tasks naturally involve obstacles, setbacks, and moments of frustration. When intrinsic motivation is present, the brain interprets these challenges not as threats, but as opportunities to learn and grow. Each time you overcome difficulty while remaining engaged, your brain strengthens its association between effort and satisfaction. This makes it increasingly natural to approach hard work with curiosity and determination, rather than procrastination and avoidance. Additionally, this cycle encourages long-term persistence. External rewards can motivate short-term effort, but once the reward is removed or delayed, motivation wanes. Intrinsic motivation, reinforced through engagement and flow, provides a sustainable source of drive that persists regardless of external circumstances. Your brain begins to see effort itself as a source of reward, which fundamentally changes your relationship with work. Over time, this cycle also improves your capacity for skill development and personal growth. By regularly entering states of deep engagement, you practice focus, problem solving, and self-discipline, all of which are essential for tackling increasingly difficult challenges. In this way, intrinsic motivation and flow are mutually reinforcing. Motivation encourages engagement, engagement triggers flow, and flow strengthens motivation. The result is a powerful feedback loop in which the brain craves the very challenges that once felt daunting, transforming the act of doing hard things into a deeply rewarding and self-sustaining experience. When approaching difficult tasks, the way you perceive them has a profound impact on your brain's willingness to engage. A key insight is that hard things become enticing when they are reframed as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to avoid. The brain naturally resists effort because evolutionarily, conserving energy was critical for survival. As a result, anything that requires sustained concentration, struggle, or discomfort triggers a subtle resistance response. This resistance manifests as procrastination, distraction, or even anxiety, making difficult tasks feel unpleasant or threatening. However, by consciously changing your perspective, you can alter how your brain interprets these challenges. Instead of viewing a task as a burden or a source of stress, you frame it as a chance to improve, learn, or expand your capabilities. This simple but powerful shift engages the brain's reward systems in a fundamentally different way. When a task is tied to growth, every step forward, every skill developed or problem solved, becomes intrinsically rewarding. The struggle itself begins to carry value because it is associated with progress and development. This reframing is deeply rooted in psychological principles, particularly the concept of growth mindset, which emphasizes that abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort and learning. By adopting a growth-oriented view, you teach your brain that challenges are not threats, but essential components of self-improvement. Another important factor is breaking down difficult tasks into smaller, achievable components. When the brain sees incremental progress, it experiences repeated dopamine rewards, reinforcing engagement and making the overall challenge feel less daunting. These micro successes build momentum and confidence, further encouraging the brain to seek out effort rather than avoid it. Additionally, connecting the task to personal values or meaningful goals amplifies this effect. When the brain perceives that effort is aligned with a purpose that matters, it naturally experiences satisfaction and motivation, even in the absence of external incentives. This alignment creates a bridge between effort and intrinsic reward, making hard work feel purposeful and desirable. By consistently applying this perspective, the brain begins to associate challenging work with positive internal states rather than discomfort. Over time, difficult tasks stop feeling like obstacles and instead become opportunities to demonstrate competence, deepen understanding, or advance toward personal goals. This reframing not only reduces mental resistance, but also builds a pattern of seeking challenge, making the act of doing hard things increasingly appealing. In this way you perceive difficulty directly shapes your motivation, rewiring the brain to crave effort when it is linked to growth, learning, and personal development. When it comes to sustaining motivation for difficult tasks, alignment with personal values and goals is one of the most powerful factors. The brain responds most positively to effort when it perceives that the work you are doing is meaningful, purposeful, and under your control. When your daily actions directly support your deeper aspirations, the effort required no longer feels like a drain. It becomes an investment in something that matters to you. This alignment taps into multiple intrinsic motivators at once, including purpose, autonomy, and mastery, creating a strong internal drive to engage with challenging work. Autonomy plays a particularly important role here. When you feel that you have control over how, when, and why you tackle tasks, the brain interprets the effort as self-directed rather than externally imposed. This sense of choice significantly reduces resistance because the work is perceived as an extension of your own priorities rather than an obligation. Purpose adds another layer of reinforcement, tasks that connect to meaningful goals, whether they are personal, professional, or creative, carry intrinsic reward. Each step you take toward these goals stimulates the brain's reward systems, reinforcing engagement and making effort itself desirable. Additionally, alignment with your values increases resilience against obstacles. Difficult work inevitably involves setbacks, friction, and moments of frustration. When the brain recognizes that these efforts serve a meaningful purpose, it is more likely to persist through challenges rather than seek immediate comfort or avoidance. This perspective transforms the mental experience of difficulty resistance decreases, and focus, determination, and satisfaction increase. Another critical factor is integrating growth and mastery into the tasks you pursue. When you see hard work as a path to improve skills, deepen knowledge, or achieve competence, each action reinforces a sense of progress. The brain interprets this progress as intrinsically rewarding, which strengthens motivation and reinforces the desire to continue pursuing challenging objectives. The combination of autonomy, purpose, and mastery creates a synergistic effect. When all three are present, the brain begins to crave effort because the reward is built into the activity itself, not dependent on external incentives like praise or money. This internalization of reward is what separates sustainable motivation from temporary bursts fueled by external factors. Over time, aligning your tasks with personal values and goals rewires your brain to see hard work as both meaningful and pleasurable. Effort becomes associated with growth, self-expression, and achievement rather than fatigue or obligation. The result is a self-reinforcing cycle in which engagement, progress, and intrinsic reward continuously strengthen your capacity to tackle increasingly difficult challenges. By prioritizing alignment with what truly matters to you, you transform hard tasks into opportunities that your brain actively seeks out, creating lasting motivation and the ability to sustain high performance over the long term.